there, welcome to the Focus Podcast with Taralee. This is the place where we talk about real life, real relationships, and how to grow through it all. If you're looking for simple mindset shifts, better communication, and deeper connections, you're in the right spot. Let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to the Focus Podcast. I'm Taralee Eddington. I'm a marriage crisis coach, founder of Peaceful Heart Journey, and creator of the Focus Framework. And I'm really glad you're here. If you read the blog post that went up a couple days ago, it's called "You're Not Stuck Because You Don't Know What to Do. You're Stuck Because You're Waiting to Feel Certain." This episode picks up right where that one left off. So if you haven't read it yet, you can still listen to this episode on its own, but I'll tell you the short version of where we left things because we're about to go somewhere the blog didn't go. The short version is this: a lot of you are living in a marriage that hasn't ended and hasn't healed. Nothing is final. Your spouse is still there or still texting or still occasionally warm, and you're spending an enormous amount of energy trying to figure out what that all means. Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? Is this the beginning of the end or the end of the worst part? And I said that in that post, the answer that you're chasing isn't actually what's going to move you forward. Direction is deciding who you want to be today, regardless of what your spouse decides tomorrow. That's true, and I stand behind every word of it. But I also know that if you're a smart, capable person, and most of you listening to this are, you read something like that and your brain instantly says, okay, I understand the concept, so why can't I stop checking his phone? Or why can't I stop replaying that conversation? Why did I ask her 3 different times this week if we are okay? That's what today is about. Not the what, the why. And then a how you can actually use. Here's something that I want you to hear clearly because I think a lot of you are quietly ashamed of how much this uncertainty is consuming you. You're not weak and you're not obsessive. You're not too much. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do. Human brains are prediction machines. Long before we were worrying about marriages, our brains were built to scan for danger and resolve it as fast as possible, because unresolved danger used to mean that you might not survive the night. Not knowing whether the noise in the bushes was a wind or a predator was not a philosophical question. It was survival. Your brain doesn't know the difference between I don't know if there's a predator in the bush and I don't know if my spouse is going to ask for a divorce. To your nervous system, both register the same way. Unresolved threat. An unresolved threat produces exactly what you're feeling. The loop. The checking, the replaying, the rehearsing of conversations that haven't happened yet. So when I tell you to stop chasing certainty and start choosing direction, I'm not asking you to override a bad habit. I'm asking you to override a threat response that's thousands of years old and extremely good at its job. That's why it's hard. That's why willpower alone doesn't fix it. And that's why we need something more specific than just let it go. Because if letting it go were that simple, you would have already done it. So let's talk about what actually helps. I want to bring you into a coaching conversation, and I'm not going to use anyone's real name or identifying details. This is a composite of a conversation I have in some form or another almost every single week. If it sounds like you, that's not a coincidence. This is one of the most common patterns that I work with. Let's call this client Rachel. Rachel is a physician. She runs a department. She makes decisions all day long that affect other people's lives and makes them well. She came to me 8 weeks into her husband saying that he needed space to figure things out. In our second session, she told me this: I had a good conversation with him on Tuesday. He seemed present. He asked about my day. And then Wednesday, nothing. One text back, and I have spent every hour since trying to figure out what changed between Tuesday and Wednesday. And so I asked her, what do you actually know happened between Tuesday and Wednesday? She said, nothing, that's the problem. Nothing happened. He just went cold. So I told her that's not quite true. Something did happen. You just don't have access to what it is. He had a full day at work you don't know about. He may have talked to his brother. He may have had a memory come up. He may have simply been tired. What you actually know is Tuesday felt connected, Wednesday he sent one text. That's it. That's the fact. This is where I introduced her to the first move in the focus framework, facts first. Not because it's a nice idea, but because in that moment, Rachel's nervous system had already sprinted 3 steps ahead of the facts and landed on a full story. He's pulling away again. This is the pattern. This is how it ends. None of that was a fact. All of it was a prediction dressed up as certainty. Here's the part that mattered most, though. I didn't tell Rachel her fear was wrong. I told her it was understandable, and then I asked her a different question. Not, is your fear true, but what do you do once you believe it? She said, I text him. I ask if everything's okay. Sometimes I ask twice. And I said, so the story creates the fear. The fear creates reaching, and the reaching is the thing he told you 3 weeks ago that makes him feel pressured and want to pull back further. That's the loop. The story isn't just uncomfortable, it's actively producing the outcome that she's afraid of. And this is not about blaming Rachel. It's not about blaming you. It's about seeing the mechanism clearly enough that you can finally interrupt it somewhere other than the end, when you're already reaching for your phone. I want to give you something concrete here because I know a lot of you are sitting here thinking, okay, but what do I actually do instead? What do I say? Here's what doesn't help, even though it feels like it should. Asking your spouse to resolve your uncertainty for you. Do you still love me? Are we going to be okay? Did I do something? I know those questions come from real pain, but when you ask a person who is themselves confused and overwhelmed to hand you the certainty, you're asking for something they usually cannot give. And the asking itself often reads as pressure, which pushes exactly the wrong direction. So here's what helps instead. Not scripts to manipulate an outcome, language that keeps you grounded and keeps the door open, regardless of what your spouse does with it. Instead of asking, are we okay? Try naming what you noticed without a demand attached. I noticed today felt different than yesterday. I'm not asking you to explain it. I just wanted to name it instead of pretending I didn't notice. Instead of, do you still love me? Try, I'm not asking you to reassure me right now. I just want you to know I'm here and I'm not going anywhere in this moment. Instead of chasing an explanation for a mood shift, try simply not chasing it. Let a quiet day be a quiet day. Not every shift in tone is data about the future of your marriage. Sometimes a quiet Wednesday is just a quiet Wednesday. Notice what all 3 of those have in common. None of them ask your spouse to resolve your fear. All 3 of them let you stay honest and connected without handing your nervous system's job over to someone who's already overwhelmed. I want to actually walk you through something right now while you're listening. If you're driving, just listen and hold the shape of it in your mind. If you're somewhere else, you can pause. That's even better. Here's a shortened version of a tool that I use with clients. It's called the Clear the Air Check-In. It's adapted here for something you can do alone in about 3 minutes whenever the loop starts. First, name one thing that's actually bothering you right now. One specific moment, a text or interaction. Not the whole marriage, just one moment. Okay, so if you've got it in your mind, good. Second, ask yourself, what do I know for certain about this moment? Not what I'm afraid it means, just what happened. If it was a text, what did the text literally say? If it was a tone of voice, what were the actual words used? Strip away your interpretation and just look at what's left. Third, ask yourself, what story did I build on top of that? Say it honestly, even if it sounds dramatic in your head. The story I built is that this is the beginning of the end, or the story I built is that he's already checked out. Just name it, don't judge it. And fourth, this is the one that most people skip. Ask, is this story a fact or is it a fear wearing a fact's clothing? You usually know the answer immediately once you ask it that plainly. And fifth, ask yourself the only question that's actually yours to answer today. Not what will they do, but who do I want to be in the next hour regardless of what they do? Do I want to be steady? Do I want to be warm? Do I want to pursue? Do I want to get quiet or scared? So I want you to just name it. That's it. That's the practice. Facts, story, fear check, and then a choice about you, not a prediction about them. I want you to notice something about that exercise. It didn't resolve your uncertainty. Your spouse still might be distant tomorrow. The marriage still might be fragile, but you just spent 3 minutes within yourself instead of 3 hours spiraling, and you ended the exercise with a decision you can actually act on instead of a question you can't answer. That's the whole game right now, not eliminating uncertainty, shrinking the amount of time you spend lost inside of it. I want to close this out with something I don't think gets said enough. Learning to tolerate not knowing doesn't mean you stop caring about the outcome. And I want to be really clear about that because sometimes when I teach this, people hear let go of the outcome and think that that means pretending you don't care or performing calm that you don't feel or giving up. And that is not what this means. You can want your marriage to survive with your whole heart and still refuse to spend today auditioning for a verdict you won't get today anyway. Those two things are not in conflict. In fact, I'd argue the second one is what gives the first one a fighting chance, because a person who is steady, grounded, and not chasing reassurance is simply a different person to be in a relationship with than a person who is anxious, checking, and needing constant proof. Not performing that steadiness, actually building it session by session, day by day. That's the work. It's slower than a formula, is less satisfying than an answer, and it is, in my experience, the only version of this that actually leads somewhere real. If today's episode helped you name what's actually happening in your own mind when the loop starts, go back and read the companion blog post if you haven't. It's called You're Not Stuck Because You Don't Know What to Do. You're stuck because you're waiting to feel certain. It's on the blog at TaraleeEddington.com. The two of these go together. The blog gives you the shift in thinking. This episode gives you the practice to actually do it. And so if you're listening to this and thinking, I need more than an episode, I need someone walking through this with me, I'm hosting a live call on Monday where we're going to go even deeper into this exact pattern, live together. You can register at TaraleeEddington.com. And if you already know you're ready to stop reading and listening and start actually practicing this with real support, enrollment is open right now for my group coaching program. We're going to meet live twice a week, Tuesday evenings and Thursday mornings, Eastern Time. You can bring the actual text message, the actual conversation you're dreading, the actual pattern you can't seem to break on your own, and we work it together in real time. You can find all the details at TaraleeEddington.com. You don't need certainty today. You need one decision about who you're going to be for the next hour. Make that one, then make it again tomorrow. Because what you focus on expands. I will see you next week. Thanks for hanging out with me today on the Focus Podcast. If something stood out or helped you in some way, feel free to share it or leave a quick review. It means a lot. Keep showing up, keep growing, and I'll catch you in the next episode.